Hello and welcome to predictocast, the podcast where we predict the plot of a movie we know nothing about. I'm Josh, and with me, as always, is the Toy Master, Skinner.
Oh, man, I was going to introduce myself as the King of Cincinnati, but now I can't even do that.
As I mentioned on the mini episode last week, we are not alone. We are getting into the holiday season, and so wanted to bring along some friends to celebrate with us. And this week on the show, we are joined by the person responsible for us covering this movie in the first place, my roommate, Lara Fortier. Hello, Lara.
Hi.
Thank you for joining us. Thank you for suggesting this film.
Well, thank you for finally allowing me to choose a film that would qualify for your podcast.
Hey, okay, so that's not
that's
fair.
An aggressive hey.
Well, I want to set the record straight. I want to correct things because the second episode of this show, the only documentary we've ever covered on predictocast, Finders Keepers, an excellent movie, was recommended to me by you, right?
Yeah.
So you are responsible for us covering the only documentary we've ever done, and one of the wildest movies we've covered on this show.
That has a lot to do with in similarity to this movie with limbs.
Yeah, they're very similar movies. I only watch documentaries.
But yeah, so you brought up Babes in Toyland because I was talking to you about trying to find Christmassy movies for us to do during December, and you brought this up because you said you had watched it a lot as a kid. So talk about that a little bit. Like, what do you remember about this as a kid?
I remember the world of Toyland being much bigger than it was when I rewatched it. But I really wanted one of those flower cars, and it was a fun made-for-TV adventure movie. And at the time, I didn't know who Keanu Reeves or Drew Barrymore were. So it was just fun and strange.
I was, older than both of you when this happened, so I should have been able to watch it live. I have no memory of this. I don't know if it never played in Canada that often, but it's charming. After you get past Richard Mulligan hitting on a teenager.
Yes, this made-for-TV NBC movie that was broadcast on December 19th includes a extended scene where this guy suggests that his very young employee should have sex with him.
But he's immediately countered and put in his place. So,
well, yes, but still, it was shocking to me. So, Lara, if you don't think that you watched this live, or you said you watched a taped version, so you had it on a VHS, right?
Well, I was born in 1985, so I definitely didn't watch it brand new.
No, you weren't in front of the TV at 1986 watching this 145-minute version.
No, so we recorded it off the TV on VHS, so it still had all the commercials and stuff in it. And I think it was a different version than this one, but it wasn't 3 hours long. So either it was a different version, or I've somehow seen a different version. I would not have put up with watching a 3-hour version of this. So there is a third version out there somewhere.
So I think we do have to talk about that, because at the end of the mini episode, we stumbled across the fact that on IMDb, the movie is listed as being 2 hours and 20 minutes long. And thankfully, that is not the case. The version that you can get on Amazon Prime and ostensibly the only version that is widely available is a shortened 94-minute version that was released overseas theatrically. And apparently they only broadcast the 145-minute, 2-hour, 20-minute cut once. And I guess that was on the night it aired, and then they cut it down for home video release and for, worldwide distribution. So I think that I did stumble across a YouTube version that is about almost 3 hours long, which I think is the version with commercials that aired on December 19th, 1986. And I do not have the power to go through it and see what is different.
I love that Wikipedia says that phrases it as the original 145-minute cut was never legally seen outside of television. It just makes it seem like it's this underground thing that's passed around.
There's a bootleg musical circuit, I'm sure, for that. It's with Rocky Horror and everything else.
the 210-minute version of Rocky Horror.
A lot more horror, a lot more Rocky. But man, I mean, they had a third reprise of the Cincinnati song in the longer version.
Okay, so that's also pretty funny because I did not know that Cincinnati played such a major part in this. And my mom lives in Cincinnati. I'll be there for Christmas this year. And I had no idea that when I was settling in to watch Babes in Toyland, I was going to get two Cincinnati songs.
It made me feel bad that when I'm just driving around in the winter that I don't have a song for Minneapolis or St. Paul or Dartmouth or Halifax, really any place I've lived. I just don't know the local song we sing when we're talking about how much we love where we live.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. I will say, if we're just going through sort of general thoughts, I thought it was pretty fun. I think, we watched the trailer for it, Skinner, and it did not look great in that very sort of low quality version of the trailer that's on YouTube. But in actual practice, in actually watching the movie, they definitely did a pretty good job with it. Like, the sets are kind of fun, and it's not just like we were worried that it was just one sound stage, but they have a bunch of different sets, and it looks very fun, and they really do have a good time with it. I was more impressed with it than I expected to be, and it's a pretty cute, fun little movie because all of the older actors, like Richard Mulligan, Eileen Brennan, Pat Morita, they seem to be having a good time. Richard Mulligan is hamming it up, and it's pretty fun to watch them have fun.
I kind of wanted to see his redemption story.
No, he's just a bad guy who gets destroyed and ripped apart in the woods by his zombie troll horde. He
looks so sad for a second, but then he starts snarking off again. I'm like, well, I guess you deserve to die. You love evil. You're a weirdo. You live in a bowling ball on the hill, all black, 3 holes. That was such a weird thing to have someone say in a way that sounded ominous. Because the way he says 3 holes, I'm like, is that what does that mean to you? Because it doesn't mean really anything to me.
There's lots of spelling and numbers in this movie. It's educational.
I can see that. And I almost know how to spell Cincinnati now. If I
still don't.
I can't say it's gonna stick, but
no.
I thought the movie looked fairly high budget on the non when they're in the real Cincinnati.
Yes,
it looks like a contemporary movie from there. It looks like a real toy store that looks like shit to work in, and then they move this place where everything, all the toys are terrifying, but some are more or less. The frog people are horrifying.
Yes. My favorite thing was catching sight of Humpty Dumpty, that dead-eyed monster in the background of multiple shots, and he's just always there looming over someone. And I'm like, oh man, we never see him up close. He's always just in the background, like a nightmare.
I thought we were going to see him die at some point.
Or fall and get cracked open. That's in the longer cut. For sure. He gets knocked over by the trolls and his head cracks open.
The highest level of violence is banishing someone to the nighttime forest where it's always daytime.
I was kind of surprised when the soldiers pointed their guns at people.
Yes, and fired them.
They missed.
Yeah.
Well, they're stormtroopers in that way.
The Santa Claus is very proud of his army, though.
Okay. I expressed this, Laura and I watched this together, and I expressed my distaste for the reveal that the Toy Master is actually Santa Claus.
To me, it's it's funny in that at one early in the movie they say Santa Claus wouldn't trust just anybody to make all his toys. And it turns out Santa Claus doesn't trust anybody. He just trusts himself. I think he has some trust issues.
I was looking through like possible 80s actors who it could have been, and I think they missed a great opportunity to have a Happy Days reunion and have it be Tom Bosley.
I don't.
I feel like you don't get this guy without giving him Santa Claus as his role. I mean
that's probably true, but I still feel like, you know, he's doing that coy thing of like, ooh, didn't Santa get you enough toys last year? Didn't Santa do this? And it's like, you're just talking about yourself.
I wish there was a Christmas song outside of the, you know, the canon of the musical numbers for this movie, where Santa Claus, you know, he knows when you're sleeping, he knows when you're nice. He has on his shelf a canister of distilled evil, and he laughs like sugar plums are dancing in your head. Is this the only movie that Pat Morita sings in?
It's not him singing, I bet. It did not sound like him when he started singing. I think Drew Barrymore is also dubbed because apparently she didn't have a great voice either. They had to dub her as well because there's some, I'm going to find this bit of trivia on IMDb because it was very distasteful.
That's good. I can't wait to hear it.
Yeah. It's that she was 11 years old during filming. She was also a regular at nightclubs, had been smoking for 2 years, and was beginning a dangerous flirtation with alcohol that would later extend to marijuana and cocaine. Why is that a piece of trivia on this movie?
I think what you said when you read it was, this isn't trivia.
I think it's like back to like when we kind of hit on this in the mini, where like everyone just like kind of thought it was funny that her life was a mess and we all knew it. And it's like, no, it wasn't. That's not great. Like,
yeah,
like it's, we've done it again and again and again as a society with, you know, young celebrities, but like she was super talented and super famous, but we just like, I guess her career's in the dumpster because she likes drugs young. Like, great. Fantastic. That's hilarious trivia. I love it. Maybe Googie Gress did drugs. Is that in the IMDb trivia?
Does he have is there anyone with a better name than that?
It's better than Georgie Porgy.
That bit of trivia about Drew Barrymore, only 28 out of 33 found it interesting. I need to know more about Googie Gress. I mean, that name is just like, I hope that's the name he was born with, but I'm sure. He was born as Francis Gress, unfortunately. But as an infant, his father called him his Goo Goo baby, thus becoming Googie.
He's a character that any number of current comedians would have played today. Yes.
All right, so let's kind of go through the plot of this thing and talk about what happens in it. We get like an opening with a lot of nice little drawings of snowy Cincinnati. Very long opening sequence of all these drawings. Like their artist on set was like, I'm going to do 15 or 16 drawings of Cincinnati in the snow, and you're going to use all of them.
I thought it was super charming. I was watching that. I'm like, I want these miniatures in my house. It would take up most of my house, but
yes,
I would still enjoy it for like a day or two until I had to walk around it constantly to go make toast.
Did Holly watch this with you?
Oh, I didn't do that to my family. Can you I do. I mean, as much fun as I have watching the movies that we have to watch, and this was a charming movie. Having a 14-year-old just constantly tell me how stupid it is and how bad we all looked in 1986 would have really hurt my feelings.
Thanksgiving's gonna be fun, or it was fun because it's already happened.
So yeah, if you're expecting younger Holly who is wide-eyed and innocent about everything and likes everything, good luck when we watch movies together when she just completely rips apart Hallmark movies that you put in front of her.
I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it. Or I loved it in the past. I like that this movie starts just like Scream did, with Drew Barrymore answering the phone.
I mean, this is what led her to drugs.
This movie in particular.
Phone calls, just phone calls.
Oh, yes.
Phone calls.
Okay.
It's the millennial scourge, like the phone.
That's right. She's at home alone. There's a big snowstorm coming. And her mom, played by Eileen Brennan, is out.
She's playing it a very muted performance.
Yes. Until she gets to Toyland.
She didn't make her voice crack for every single line when she's talking on the phone.
I love Eileen Brennan, and she's very funny in this. I know her obviously best from Clue, but she's really good in this too. She's not in it much, but she's pretty good.
I do enjoy the Widow Hubbard as somebody who's just horny for any man.
Yes, no, that is pretty good. Her whole bit with her kids and not remembering their names, I kind of liked. It felt like the writers of the movie just ran out of like fairy tale characters or storybook characters to put in there, and she was just like, fuck it, I don't remember the rest of these.
So many were named Jack, and obviously that is a thing in fairy tales to the point of where it's used in spin-off things that use it. But like the fact that so many of your kids are named Jack and Keanu Reeves is also Jack, I'm like, are Jack and Mary related? It's not a lot of humans in that town.
That is true. They should have given Keanu Reeves like some sort of weird duck bill or like a beaver tail or something just to differentiate him.
Maybe he's part cookie and that's why he works at the cookie factory.
Yes, I would have liked that. Like one of his hands is just a gingerbread hand.
How is this person is like, okay. Anyways, evil uncle movies are always interesting to me, but still.
Yeah. So she's there at home. She talks to her mom, who's getting some chains put on the tires. She's out with their brother, the little brother. I can't remember his name. Joey, is that it?
It's probably another Jack.
Yes, it's Joey, I think.
Joey, Jack.
Yes. And he's Joseph. We call him Jack for short. That was a thing, wasn't it? Like everybody got like Jack. Like John F. Kennedy was called Jack. Like I don't understand why they just decided to do that.
I mean, Richard could also be Jacks too.
Josh's can be Jack. Just call me Jack from now on.
I just, my parents were born in the 30s, and like, just growing up, like all their friends, like just some of them were something other than Jack, and they called them Jack. That is just. I suppose if we just say like, oh yeah, nowadays, if your name's Ryder, we actually just call you Buddy, and that's what we just call everyone in the Midwest anyway. So,
are there a lot of Ryders? I feel like you could still go with John, and it would be as common as Jack is in this movie.
There's a lot of Ryders at my daughter's school.
Okay.
All their parents were fans of Boy Meets World.
And Bradens and Jadens.
And Cadens,
yes.
It's that entirety of that meme with the woman trying to decide her kids' names.
It's not inaccurate.
So she's there at the house. Lisa, her sister, is putting on her work uniform, about to go out to her job at the toy store. And they talk a little bit, and she tells her that she's got her Christmas present picked out, and she's going to love it. And it's she reveals that it's a sled. And I couldn't tell, but like Lisa seemed kind of bummed about that.
Sleds aren't great.
Well, she's excited about it later when she gets it, but when she sees what kind of sled it is, it's like top of the line sled.
Now, did you guys like? I get the idea is that like Lisa's supposed to be too mature for toys. I didn't feel that way, that she was a super mature child who wasn't in touch with being a child herself for most of the movie, because she seems pretty like accepting of what Toyland is, and like this is super
she's
cool.
not fighting it. She's not running around going, "This is a dream, and this I can't be here." Like she just seems to go with it.
She doesn't.
But I wonder if
like
that's
stuffed animals anymore. Is that the kind of the extent of it? And she didn't like that sled enough.
I mean, yeah, I guess she just has to like. She doesn't believe in the magic of and power of toys or fun anymore, I guess.
I mean, once you've driven one of those cool cars they have in Toyland, everything else would seem kind of boring.
That is true. So she's there at home. Lisa heads off, or Mary heads off to work, and the phone lines suddenly go down, and this causes her to freak out and put on her coat and run to the toy store.
Well, and it very much looked like the power lines going out, which is like, no,
yes.
Do not go out there. Like, you are going to get electrocuted in your front yard.
There's just a live wire whipping around, shooting sparks out.
But the power stayed on.
Yeah, but apparently it's just the phones. But she sees on the TV that there's a super blizzard coming in, and she's worried about her sister getting stuck at work. So she runs home, or she runs to the store to tell her to come home. And this is when we meet Jack, played by Keanu Reeves, who works at the toy store along with Mary, and they seem to be a couple. And then we also meet Richard Mulligan as Barney, Mr. Barney, rather. Mr. Barney, or is it Mr. Oh, it's Mr. Barney, and then he becomes Barnaby Barnacle once we get to Toyland.
Her dream names are very creative compared to their actual names.
Yes, it is very much this is very much a Wizard of Oz type movie where except
for instead of a tornado, it's a concussion.
Yes, which I think is also the cause in Wizard of Oz. I mean, that's why in Return to Oz, they give her like electroshock therapy to try to cure her brain.
It's a weather-related brain injury.
There you go.
Except for, like, I don't get hit by a lot of tornadoes in the Midwest here, thankfully, where I'm at. But like the fun of watching her fly off into this magical land through a horrifying car accident, was a little too real to me.
Yeah, I did just check IMDb for weather-related brain injury keywords, and so far I haven't been able to find anything.
It's not like Slimehouse or anything.
No, not like Slimehouse.
Was this a Slimehouse movie? Did we figure out if there was...
Oh, you're right. This was the Slimehouse movie. I don't know what a Slimehouse is. Do you know what a Slimehouse is, Lara?
No, and I don't know what a Slimehouse movie is.
Well, so we on our mini episodes, we will we will look at the IMDb keywords, and one for this movie that jumped out at us was Slimehouse. All one word, and we started looking that up, and there's a podcast that apparently goes through the Slimehouse movie canon, whatever that is. And we couldn't figure out what that was, and I don't recall anything from this film that was a quote Slimehouse.
All the Spider-Man movie, regardless of who Spider-Man is, were on the list, but this was the number one Slimehouse movie.
Yeah, I mean, maybe the
only one that made sense was Ghostbusters.
Yes, maybe I mean, I guess those holes in that bowling ball could be pretty slimy. Maybe that's what it's referring to.
No.
Zach and Matt can be up to a lot of stuff.
Yeah, those are some slimy boys.
How did they get on the cover of the German version? Of this?
I don't know.
Because they're impressively strange. Like
they're impressive and they are strange.
Yeah, Nosferatu and Riff Raff there doing his bidding. So she's hiding at the store because they don't want Mr. Barney to see her, and he comes around and he's a real fucking creep to Mary, like we already talked about. Jack is like, all right, fine, let's get out of here. I'll take you guys home because the storm could be really bad. And as Barney is saying all these things to Mary, Lisa pops up from behind the counter and kind of tells him off. And then Lisa jumps on the PA system at the store and tells everybody they need to leave immediately because there's a bad blizzard coming, and it's gonna get really nasty. And so people start leaving the store, and Barney, of course, gets pissed off, and he tells them that they're fired if they leave, or that they can try to sue him for wages, but they won't work or something like that. He's just a real piece of shit boss.
But they also live walking distance from the store.
But they have to drive. Yeah, I don't.
They choose to drive.
That's true.
Drew Barrymore ran over there pretty quickly in the beginning.
Yeah, They could have just walked home and probably gotten there safely, but then the movie wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. They jump in the they jump in his Jeep, Jack and Mary and Lisa and Googie, George. They jump in his
Goo Goo baby.
That's right. And this is our first musical number, or song rather, not much of a musical number, but they're sitting in the car singing about the joy of living in Cincinnati. And it's an interesting song. Let's see. I'm going to look up.
I feel like
lyrics.
they should have introduced Trolog or another puppet sooner, because I feel like that would have helped with the song.
I think if they had, I wish they were selling a toy of the Trollocs or something.
Oh yeah, that would be great. I'm trying to find the lyrics for this freaking song.
Don't they just spell it?
Well, they do, but they have little like bits about it. Like, I feel like if Sufjan Stevens had gotten around to making his state album about Ohio, he would have done some sort of reprise of the Cincinnati song at some point.
Do you think if they made this movie today with a child actress who had just been as big a hit as E.T., would they have had some like? I expected Drew Barrymore to have come across a stuffed E.T. at the store, pick it up, and then go and toss it away, and then look at the audience and wink.
Yes, that would happen now for sure. If that happened, like it would definitely be a thing. They would work out some sort of licensing deal, and it would be in all the tabloids because they would be like, "You won't believe." Like I'm gonna be surprised if, as of the time of this recording, I have not seen the new Ghostbusters. But if there's not a fucking Stranger Things reference because Finn Wolfhard is in it, I will be very surprised. I think just by him being in the movie, it's a Stranger Things reference.
So if they made this today, what role would Finn Wolfhard play in it? Because he would obviously be in it.
Googie Grass, I guess.
Okay. So have you found the lyrics of this song yet?
No, it doesn't seem to exist.
That's it's staying in Toyland and Cincinnati. when you get back to when you go back there for Christmas, just start singing the opening bars at the
I did
airport.
find it. Lara was nice enough to send it to me. So, and by saying I found it, I mean that she sent it to me.
Someone has out-Googled you, which never happens.
No, this is not the right song. This is not the song.
Okay, what song is this? Tell me.
That's an even better one. You're right. I didn't check it.
This is Cincinnati, Ohio by Connie Smith.
This
Sing
could
it for
work.
us.
No, I can't sing
right,
it because I don't know the
check it.
tune.
Otherwise,
but
you would have.
it's talking about how one more hour I'll be home, close my eyes and rest my bones. Can't be more than a mile or so from Cincinnati, Ohio. Cincinnati, Ohio. It doesn't even rhyme, but okay.
Oh, man. I bet you Pete Rose wasn't in the original 1903 version of the play.
Yeah, that definitely was updated, I think, for 1986. And then if they made it today, would be removed because he is a disgrace.
I mean, eventually he won't be a disgrace, right? Once he's dead, then he'll be reminted as an NFC and we'll be fine.
Yes. And I found like 12 Cincinnati songs now. So now I don't feel so bad about sending you the wrong one first. So.
No, it's
who knew there were so many?
I'm gonna create a Cincinnati playlist that I will listen to on my flight to Cincinnati to see my mom, and then I'll just insist that she only listens to those songs while we're together.
Well, the Cincinnati greatest hits is what I've found.
Oh, okay. Wow,
there are 12
all right.
songs.
Wow, is there a band called Cincinnati, like a band called Alabama?
These are all different bands.
Wow.
And the Babes in Toyland one is the bonus track.
Oh, nice.
Ooh, wait a minute now.
But
now
there's no lyrics.
I bet you
there's something
you could pay Pentatonics to do like a concert of just all those songs.
Yeah, there's a whole list. I mean, Cincinnati Magazine last year published the top 10 Cincinnati songs in chronological order. Let's see what's on here. Let's see if there's anything that I know.
If they have this song, you'll know it because you've heard it twice.
They don't. Oddly enough, this particular writer did not want to include this song. So I mean, very interesting. But
what's number one?
Well, it's in chronological order. So
time is what the real measurement of quality is.
Yes, I'll just give you the first one on the list from 1950, Cincinnati Hit Parade by Bill Franklin. This marvelous slice of hillbilly jive really swings, punctuated by bursts of chiming steel guitar and old-timey roller rink organ. Plus, it's a truck driving song. So that sounds awesome.
The first one on this list is Susie, Cincinnati by the Beach Boys.
Oh, all right.
That's probably a better song.
Probably. I would imagine so. One of Jamaica's leading lights slyly calls out praise to King Records' most famous artist in this far-sighted fusion of rocksteady and funk, drawing a direct line between Kingston and Cincinnati. That's Cincinnati Kid by Prince Buster from 1966.
There's a lot to these songs.
All right, let's not descend into Cincinnati cast. That'll be the next thing you and I do, Skinner. So yeah, they're singing this song and they're enjoying themselves, all getting in on it, and
they are really enjoying themselves, I have to say.
Yes, and they end up swerving to avoid a downed tree, and then this causes Drew Barrymore to fly out of the car because the back flaps are open. And
terrifying.
She rides down the hill and smacks right into a tree.
She should be dead.
She should be. There's no explanation when she does come to at the end of the movie. Like, she doesn't have like a bump on her head or anything like that.
They did take her to a hospital.
No. She seems okay. Like she doesn't wake. She just wakes up on her couch like, oh, everything's great.
She had an adventure in her own head. Maybe she watched Karate Kid that week.
So, as she hits her head, we kind of there's a bunch of flashes, like she's in 2001, going into the infinite, and descends into Toyland, and there's all these various toys and creatures and stuffed animals walking around, and she descends towards the ground and just lands right into a cake.
It's hilarious and delicious, and
lots of furries everywhere. She gets this. Must have been like when you went to the zoo that time, Skinner.
There was less music that time.
What happened at the zoo?
So we went to the zoo. My friend Phil and I went to the zoo one year for a zoo boo, which was trick-or-treating for our kids. Mm-hmm. You could go around the zoo and
the animals would give you candy.
And the staff were dressed as were dressed in costume. They gave us candy, and the animals were there, and the polar bear pooped. It was all a great time. And at the very end, there was just regular people in costumes. At the very end, they clearly hired a group of local furries to also be in costume to have a dance party with the kids, and their costumes were immaculate. They were very tight at the hips, and a lot of their eyes glowed, and it was good for them. They got a gig. It was one of those moments where you almost felt like, oh, someone who runs the zoo doesn't know the difference between Halloween costumes and furry costumes, because these people were personas, and one person was a reptile fursona, a scale sona. He was a snake, and he was very tall.
So, good times that I always like to remind Skinner of.
It's kind of seared in there. We just turned the corner, like, oh, there's a bunch of fursonas over there. That's unexpected.
How old was your child?
She was probably 6 or 7 at that point.
So did she think it was great or terrifying?
She was a little concerned about the ones who had the red glowing eyes, but otherwise she thought they were. She as well could not tell they were not just the other people. That you probably could tell their costumes were of a much higher quality than everybody else's, but other than that, she didn't think it was out of place that badly. She just did not want anything to do with the ones thrusting their hips with their glowing eyes.
Lisa meets. Oh my God, I keep getting their names confused. Mary is our hero, right?
No, Mary Contrary is the sister.
Oh, okay,
Slash-
Lisa. Yes, okay. They whatever reason I cannot keep them straight in my head, but Lisa gets bumped into by Georgie Porgy. This is George from the real world where she was before, where things were very real, and he is a cookie tester at the cookie factory. He gives her a cookie out of his hat.
Worse places that could come from than that, I guess.
I mean, there are worse places, but like that's a hairy cookie, I think.
I mean, he eats one off the floor later.
That's true. He's not as concerned. Maybe it's very clean in Toyland. And everyone in the town is heading for the town square because they are going to a wedding. The wedding of Barnaby Barnacle and Mary Contrary. And Georgie tells her that it's kind of not great because Mary actually is in love with Jack Be Nimble. But there's a lot of weird reasons that she has to get married to Barnaby. It involves a lot of like mortgage stuff like on her house.
And it was Jack B. Nimble Jr., I think.
Oh, so yes, you're right.
There is a Father Jack somewhere.
Yeah, he's must be dead, I think, because he's not in this movie, and there's nowhere else outside of Toyland, as we learned. So I guess he died or wandered into the forest and got destroyed by trolls.
Or he became a troll. I mean, I feel like Barnaby
maybe
was recruiting.
That's true. Barnaby could have turned him into a troll. That would have been interesting. But they can't elope because Lisa brings up, well, why don't they just leave and get married? This young girl who doesn't have time for toys but knows all about elopement. And Georgie says that they can't because the forest of night surrounds the town and essentially prevents anyone from leaving. So this is like...
This is the village.
Toyland is the village, basically. They've been trapped here by this lie that they can't leave. And then they're basically just inside a forest preserve with M. Night Shyamalan patrolling the grounds.
I mean, we don't have a bad color. That's good.
That's true. And there are no weird, like, pig monsters running around in this one. But there are some, there are some pigs, but they're bears. And that took a minute.
So there is some resemblance between Richard Mulligan and William Hurt, right?
Yeah, a little bit. You're not wrong there.
They had haggard eyes.
Yeah, there you go.
Tired.
And Mary is Bryce Dallas Howard, and Jack B. Nimble is not Adrian Brody. It's Joaquin Phoenix. Yeah.
Let's just not bring up Adrian Brody in this show ever.
Yeah, man. So Barnaby comes out to come to the wedding. He's got his minions, Zach and Mac, the aforementioned Riff Raff and Nosferatu.
Well, he's the groom.
He's the groom, yes.
He's going to marry this young lady.
He's going to marry this very young woman.
Who's in love with his nephew.
Yes. Weird twisted web there.
Small town.
There's also some sort of law enacted by Barnaby Barnacle, who owns the bakery, that if Jack doesn't get married by next week, something bad happens.
Yes. Basically, if he's not married by noon, like next Wednesday or something, I think they say, that he will lose his chance to govern the town or something. Or he has to get married to take over as like mayor or something. And then if he doesn't do that, then it reverts to Barnaby and he gets to control the town.
I think it's some sort of assumption that his father or parents are dead.
Yes.
Well, what kills you in Toyland?
I don't know. I mean, like Lara said, I think maybe maybe they've been turned into trolls. Although I feel like that would have been referenced if that were the case. Like I feel like that would have come up.
We don't see a doctor, so maybe like just even simple problems can lead to death.
Yeah, you get a splinter and you're done for.
There's also sort of limited housing, because I know that the people living in the shoes have had to expand to boots and they can't afford it now. So they're basically either sell the children or marry off. Yeah.
This town's fucked up. We need some new leadership.
Thank God it's only Santa Claus in town.
I mean, so is this? So this is in out. I mean, we know that by the end, Toyland is in another galaxy. I think so. They go by their own. They have their own messed up government there, I guess. Lisa interrupts the wedding proceedings and basically says that Mary should marry Jack because that's who she loves. And there's a whole commotion. There's a bunch of bear cops who were there who get involved. ACAB, of course, all cops are bears. And it's weird because like Jack just runs up and scoops Mary up and pulls her away from the ceremony, and then that ends the wedding, and Barnaby just walks away like defeated.
Yeah, I don't like. No one considered saying, "Hey, no."
Yeah, it's very weird to me. Like, and everybody is opposed to this wedding. Like, everybody
her
hates
mom
this idea.
That's all that matters because she belongs to her mother.
I guess that is it. But like, even when Lisa lands in the cake, you can hear people in the background going, "Well, he doesn't deserve a good cake anyway for his wedding. He sucks." And they're just
he
like,
lives in a bowling ball, all black, 3 holes.
But so he runs off, and then everybody breaks into song about how great Lisa is, how she's the like girl of the minute, of the hour, of the day, of the month, of the year, and they kind of just keep singing about how awesome she is. Which would really, considering this is all in her head, she's got like a big ego.
Well, I mean, it's all self-generated.
I know, that's what I'm saying. I'm not going to go to sleep and have a dream about how people are going to sing about how great I am.
Big ego and confidence are you can't slam her for just knowing that she's good. She was brought up right by her mother, who in the real world seems very disinterested in her. But she knows that she's a good person who, if like sometimes you invent situations in your head if you're kind of tired or bored or frustrated, and like, well, if this happened to me and this happened to me, and I would stand up for this person and blah blah blah, and I would do this, and then I would win all these awards, and I'd go back in time and I would bet on things. But
just like Mark Wahlberg saying if he had been on that plane, he would have stopped it from crashing.
And just like that, if Mark Wahlberg got a huge concussion from falling off a building or someone punching him in the face, he would have a dream where he came to a town, some kind of little Boston, and everyone there would start singing about how great he was.
That is true. That would happen.
But why are we being the dream police here? Like, I feel like these are not the problems we need to fix, even in Toyland.
I will patrol all dreams. I am like police officer Freddy Krueger.
Even at the end of the movie, they're not free from the forest.
No, they're still stuck in that little preserve. So we see now into Barnaby's bowling ball home, which we don't really get inside the home itself. He just seems to live in a cave underground, which I don't know if that's inside the ball or like I was fully expecting him to go inside the bowling ball and it'd be like the TARDIS, where it's just this huge mansion or something inside. But
we know that it can be moved like a bowling ball, because he says that when he's in a bad mood, he'll sometimes roll it through town and knock over buildings.
I wanted to see that happen. I want to see how that works.
That was too much budget.
Yeah, that was that they barely made that thing round. You could see the seams in the HD.
So he goes down into the cave and he consults Trolog, his one-eyed bird spy.
That's my favorite character in this.
Yes, Trolog's great. Trolog is actually played by Sherry Weiser, who also played Hoggle in Labyrinth, which is there's some similarities obviously between these two films. A person goes into a magical land and deals with some weird creatures. But yeah, Hoggle really excellent character, and same year as this too. So really doing some good work in 1986.
So really a peak time for giant dark bird like puppets.
That's right. But Trolog has the ability to turn its eye into a viewing screen of sorts and basically just look anywhere. Like it becomes a television, and Barnaby can just look at every part of Toyland.
It's the T in TV stands for
Trolog.
And
Trolog vision.
Barnaby loves Trolog. Like he legitimately that's his favorite thing on earth.
Yes.
He's so like he is mostly upset at the end because they do Trolog wrong when they paint over his eye. Which is a dick move.
Yeah, well, that's a good question though, because at the end he grabs Lisa and he's like, "I'm going to turn you into my new Trolog." So does that mean that he turned another random kid into that Trolog that we saw?
But he couldn't before because he didn't have Santa's
evil vial
of concentrated evil.
I actually think there was another Trolog scene in the other version that I saw. Like he didn't die. They cleaned him up. I think they may have reformed him. But maybe I'm falsely remembering.
You're just hoping that's what happened.
No, I remember it, but I don't remember specifically. Just that he's like squawking next to Santa Claus or something.
Oh, okay. I would have liked if they'd kept that in there.
I want someone on Nancy to make me a picture of that.
Trolog and Santa Claus.
Yes.
So Barnaby has this master plan. He goes to the cookie factory, which I guess he owns. I was a little confused by that.
The family kind of owns it.
Yeah, I guess he has a stake in it somehow, and he sends
stock.
Yeah, cookie stock. He sends everybody
celery socks.
He sends everybody on a cookie break, and he and Zach and Mac open up the floor in the cookie room, and then basically just throw a bunch of the cookies into the ground, into the tunnels beneath the cookie factory.
Happy birthday to the ground.
Maybe they were hungry. I feel like there's not a lot of food in that bowling ball.
I hope that the trolls got to eat those cookies, because otherwise they just went to waste.
I mean, Barnaby Barnacle is going to do a lot of things. But he's not going to waste food.
Is Barnaby Barnacles a character on SpongeBob? Because it sounds like he should be.
He's not. Why aren't you watching more SpongeBob?
Because it's gotten too weird. I saw a clip from a recent SpongeBob episode, and it was bizarre. Like, too strange. Like, inappropriate for children.
You've gotten too old, my friend.
I have gotten too old for that, I think. Like, the early days, I watched it when it first started, and I was like, oh, this is fun and a little weird, but like good-natured. And then it's descended into almost like Ren and Stimpy-esque gross-out stuff. And I was like, this is strange. This is like, I was not expecting to see some of that. I think it was when we really get a good bit of time with Mother Hubbard. And she's got all the kids and, is worried about losing her boot home. And this is when she mentions that she could, sell the kids, or maybe she could marry Barnaby. She would be open to that.
She could turn into a Trolog to get rid of Dad.
And we get to see them ride around in some sweet little go-karts here. That are pretty awesome. They sounded like the cars from the Wacky Races cartoon. They had the little like burbling noises that played underneath all those little cars. One interesting bit of information that Mary drops is that it's always daylight in Toyland.
I lost my mind at that. Like it's like Alaska on crack.
Well, that's the plot of that Christopher Nolan remake, Insomnia. I think there's a Swedish version. It's the same plot, but like of this person who goes to Alaska and can't handle it because it's never dark there, and they start to lose their mind.
Just more time to play.
Yeah. And they go to the cookie factory, and Barnaby has started to set in motion his plan. He brings in Justice Grimm, who shows up, and he tells him to arrest Jack because he's responsible for all the cookies going missing. They apparently have lost 6 months of cookies. And because Jack is the cookie keeper, he is responsible and is charged with grand cookie larceny. Which is weird. They never really explain, like, if the cookies are all destroyed, then how do they replenish their supply of cookies, and why do they need so much?
Well, and I don't think they use money in this town.
Oh, cookie currency.
I don't have a feel. I feel like if you went in there and asked for a cookie, they would give you one. But maybe I'm wrong.
So, of course, Justice Grimm goes along with this for whatever reason, because he just does. And he arrests Jack and takes him to the jail. And
I have to say something about that train, like the train.
Oh, yes.
It's both the joy train and the jail train thing. Like, it reminds me so much of this amusement park we had where I grew up called Enchanted Village. And later it got like a water park and stuff that looks like with roller coasters and looks like a real amusement park. But I remember when it was really strange still. It really was like a town like this with, but it did have a train that went like through the forest, and then it may have had little cars. It had goats that climbed trees and lots of miniature town things. Like, it was very strange, and I remember it from like the POV of like a 6-year-old child or younger. So, but this whole place looks just like it in my memory. No bowling ball there though.
Where at Enchanted Village, were there like big like people in toy costumes walking around, or was it just like more normal than that?
There might have been some dressed as animals, but I don't like it. It would have been more like Disneyland in the way where like, go stand with the bear or something. That would never have been my thing. I wasn't a fan of furry people, but I think they may have had some.
That sounds amazing. I would like to go to the Enchanted Village.
Mm-hmm. It probably still exists, but it's now mostly Wild Waves.
Let's look it up. Enchanted Village, and you are from
it's in Tacoma,
Washington. Well, it's now the Wild Waves theme and water park.
No, that's one side of it is Wild Waves.
Oh, okay.
So the kids side. Well, no, the kids side is Enchanted, or at least was Enchanted Village, and then the water park is on the other side. But maybe they've totally gotten rid of Enchanted
I think they
Village.
must have gotten rid of it because it, it looks like it's been renamed, because Wild Waves theme and water
look
park
at what the theme park part. There's family.
It says it opened in 1977 as the Enchanted Village. The park is a popular summer destination. I think they must have maybe gotten rid of that part. Like, it's now
They
just
still have
Wild Waves.
some of it, because like if you look at the family,
The family rides.
the family rides, those still look way more like rides than what I remember.
Yeah, they have a ride called the Timber Axe, where you are strapped to what looks like a giant axe head, and you're flung around.
Okay, well, so like
That looks terrifying.
I told my mom in recent years that I don't really like roller coasters, and she's like, "Well, then why did you always want to go on the Ring of Fire?" So every time we'd go to this stupid thing, they have like they didn't have roller coasters, like I said, it was much smaller scale than that, but they had one of those one loop rides where you go upside down. And because I was like the older sibling, I always insisted on going on it, but I was terrified. And like, I was a really little kid, and the seats they're big enough for like a full adult to sit in it. So you can't squish yourself in. So you fall and are like hanging from the push bar for every time where you're upside down. And it also breaks a lot. So you'd inevitably end up hanging from the ceiling for like an extended period of time.
So looking at the website, they do still have, under kids rides, they have the Enchanted Railway. I think that's probably still the train that you remember. The thrill level is listed as mild.
Yeah, that does look like that one didn't have thrills to it.
No, it does say all aboard for fun though. So
that's what you want.
Yeah, it's the perfect attraction for little passengers. But anyway, back to the movie.
Anyway, sorry.
I'm glad we figured that out. I'm glad that it still exists in some form. Maybe not exactly what you remember, but it's still there, which is important. So they go to the jail to try to talk to Judge Grimm to get Jack out. And Georgie goes and steals the keys while Lisa distracts Grimm by telling him all about Cincinnati. And doesn't he ask her, like, or no, that's later on at the end where he's like, I'll come visit you on your planet, Cincinnati, sometime.
He tells him about how Pete Rose had 4,000 some hits, and everyone stood up and made him king of Cincinnati. And
That's
he's
right.
like, that's amazing. I'm like,
The Toy Master knows who Pete Rose is later, too.
he does. He's not on the nice list.
Well, okay, so that if it implies that if Justice Grimm thinks that Cincinnati is a planet, that implies that Toyland is its own planet, which means that Toyland is the only part of the Earth that is populated, and the rest is just the forest.
You think about it, we do live in a rare Earth, and it is just incredible that we have as much diversity and everything all over the planet. Perhaps in their planet, there's only one habitable zone.
That's true, maybe. One day with Elon Musk's help, we'll get to Toyland.
Not us.
No,
Just-
not us.
No, us.
Billionaires.
We'll definitely get there. It'll be
They'll
for
eaten
everybody.
by trolls.
Hopefully.
So they're able to distract him long enough to get the keys. Lisa, feigns interest in saying goodbye to Jack, so they go to the cell. They find it open. They find Jack missing, and she shoves the judge in there and locks him in. And they decide to go to the Toy Master finally to try to get some help, because he seems like he's sort of the most powerful person in town, because as we've come to find out later, he is Santa Claus, yet he seems to do almost nothing in this to help anyone.
He seems to have the ability to like he knows that he's living in someone's subconscious, because he knows the real solution is somehow, for some reason, the little girl has to believe more.
Yes.
But
he's an inspirational guy.
Yes, but he has to wait until the situation gets so dire before he mentions that.
But I guess if we are, like we said, this is all taking place in her brain. So maybe, of course, in her head, she doesn't think that Santa is anything special.
Well, here's the thing.
But it can't take place all in her brain, because she has the little toy soldier at the end that gives her a salute. So it clearly all happened.
Yeah. So what's amazing is at the end, when we're done this, I want to read the plot to the 1903 original.
Oh, okay.
None of this has anything to do with it.
Okay, good. I'm excited for that. It's a good build up. So they talk for a little bit about the various toys and everything, and he shows off the wooden soldier toys that he has, setting up this Deus Ex Machina for the end here. Basically saying that nobody really played with them anymore, so he just put them in the closet.
No one wants to play with giant human-sized toy soldiers.
Yeah, what a surprise that. Well, that's a good point. They're human-sized, but when she wakes up, they're tiny. She gets a tiny one, so that means that everybody here is very small.
Or
Including
there's
Santa
more than
Claus.
one set.
No, they're tiny people. This is a tiny Santa Claus that she's talking to.
Like the Santa Claus who visits the Smurfs.
That's right. They tell him what happened, and this is when he says, "I'm going to share a secret with you." And this is when he reveals,
I'm going to share a secret with you. He doesn't say it quite like that.
This is my version of the Toy Master, who's a grizzled old man that you see at a truck stop at 2 a.m. I'm going to tell you a secret.
I've been keeping this bottle full of vile liquids.
Yeah, it's this truck driver that you meet who calls himself the Toy Master and shows you his piss bottle, and he says it's full of evil. And he's got this little this vial, this little container in this locked cabinet where he says he's been collecting all the evil in the world, but of course he can't collect all the evil because there's just too much of it to fit in this container. Which, he's not wrong. And of course, Barnaby is watching all of this happen on Trolog Vision. and he wants that container of evil because he believes that it can allow him to turn everyone into sort of mindless zombie trolls that he can control.
Cool.
Yeah. So the Toy Master believes that they can probably collect Barnaby's evil and put it in the jar and make him good again, which I don't know if he ever was good, but there seems to be an implication that somehow he was, and he just has, because the Toy Master wants you to believe that there's good in everyone.
And then, okay, so in that case, that plot pointed out, Santa Claus says it multiple times in this thing, there's good in everybody, right?
Yeah.
I want to know how he collects the evil. Sorry.
I'm curious about that. And also, like, to your point at the start of the podcast, Laura, he doesn't get redeemed.
No,
Santa
he
Claus
doesn't.
is wrong.
Yeah, well, it's funny because later on when Barnaby shows up to steal the vial, he's like, that's when the Toy Master says, "Oh, there's good in everybody," and he like kicks the door open. And he's like, "Not in me."
That's how I enter every room, honestly.
So I think that we really need to know how the Toy Master harvested the evil that he has from someone else.
Straws.
Like, did he juice them, or like are they
just
in
reams
Toyland, or does he go to other planets to harvest this evil?
Yeah, I mean, I guess he would have to. Yeah, he would have to go to other. He would have to go to other places to get the evil. I'm assuming that
Is Hitler in there?
or maybe everybody has just a little bit of evil.
Ooh, maybe.
And he's been harvesting the evil. So everybody has a little bit of evil, and he harvests it through giving them toy soldiers or something. I don't know.
What's he gonna do with it? What's he gonna do with it once it's full?
I just like the idea, like he has his naughty or nice list, because this is canonically our Santa Claus in North America. That, like, so he gives the nice kids presents and gives them stockings full of good presents. The naughty kids, he juices a little bit for their evil.
Yeah, he puts them in a compression machine.
But the bottle's only like the size of like a wine bottle, so I feel like he hasn't.
Yeah, he's done a very
lot
good
of
job.
Good. How long does it take? How many people's evil is that?
I love how it's such a quick right turn. He's like, yeah, there's good in everybody, blah blah blah. Toys. Anyway, I got a secret to show you. I've been collecting evil. He's so proud of it.
Yeah. Now that's a Santa story that I would like to see. Like the Santa from Babes in Toyland, like his adventures in collecting evil.
Yes, under the guise of delivering gifts.
Yeah,
Santa Claus takes your evil in the night.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I would love to see that.
What's his plan with this?
No, I have no idea. It's like he's making his own like vanilla extract. He's going to add it to pies or something later.
Once again, nothing to do with the original story.
No.
I think the evil part of the story is the best part of this movie. Like, we could have just had a show of Barnaby's outfits and hats. Like,
yes, Barnaby is like I said, Richard Mulligan is having some fun as this character, and it is enjoyable to watch him like really ham it up and have a good time. Like,
have long nails. He looks. He looks like. I mean, he doesn't look that much different than he did in Empty Nest. So, but I mean, it wasn't that many years later. But like, he's got this giant face, which is very good for this.
Yeah. So they're trying to find evidence to see what happened to all the cookies. They go back to the cookie factory to look around. This causes them to split up to look for clues, and of course, Jack is walking around in the room where the cookies were, and Zach and Mac are there. And they wait until he is positioned just right and pull a lever, and it sends him into a tunnel where he falls into the caves and goes into a jail cell where Barnaby
the second time in the movie
is standing around. And
is that the second time? I thought that was the first time.
This is the first, but it happens quite a bit in the.
He gets put in the regular jail first.
Oh, that's right. He ends up in jail
jail
consistently, but people also fall down holes consistently and end up in this jail. So Barnaby sings like a Grinch-like song here, where he just wants to. He talks about wanting to destroy Toyland, and he just doesn't like toys. And he wants to. He reveals that he wants to own the town and change it to sort of fit his image. Which it's something I would have liked to have seen, like towards the end. Maybe he got like, I mean, they didn't have the budget for this, but like he gets a little bit of power and the town starts to change. You know, all the buildings go like black or something. I thought that would have been kind of fun.
Pure
to see.
black.
Like, if it were, yeah, with 3 holes, 2 windows and a door. I think if it were made today, we would have a big CGI spectacle where, you know, the town starts twisting and changing into like Tim Burton drawings or something. Barnaby, he goes over to see Mary. He's dressed up in his best cloak and hat, and he has some flowers to give, and he ends up seeing Lisa, who answers the door, and she kind of puts on a bit of a show and is like, you know, oh, you know, Mother Hubbard is kind of interested in what you got going on, and maybe, you know, getting to know you a little better. And then when she sees Miss Hubbard later, she tells her that Barnaby brought her the flowers, and so that, of course, gets her thinking. They, you know, they're having a hard time finding Jack. They're trying to figure out where he might be. They decide, oh, well, he must be with Barnaby. So they go to Barnaby's bowling ball. That should be a bowling alley somewhere, right? Like that should be someone should have named their place Barnaby's Bowling Ball. Let's see if that exists.
No, let's see if it existed in
no,
the past.
it doesn't, unfortunately. If you search Barnaby's Bowling Ball, it just comes up with unintentionally frightening babes in Toyland, like some article from 2013.
Not really frightening, honestly.
No, it's just strange. But Mary says, you know, I have to not be, you know, I can't let things just happen. I have to, you know, be active. I have to go find Jack if he's in there. And so she goes into the bowling ball and is looking around, and of course falls down a hole and ends up in the prison cell with Jack. And
did they make out at this point?
I think so. Yeah, I think there's a lot of making out. Some very passionate making out for this 1986 TV movie. And they go back to the toy master, who again doesn't seem to really care. And this is when Barnaby shows up with his goons, and they tie up everybody, and they get the evil vial. And he leaves Trolog behind to, I guess, eat them. I wasn't really clear what Trolog was trying to do here.
Wikipedia says he was going to eat them.
Okay, because he like is chomping at them, but in a very cute way, like a little bird kind of chomping at you, trying to get like a piece of food in your hand.
Yeah, the first thing he does is free Lisa.
Yeah, unintentionally bites through her ropes so she can escape.
I think we're all just kind of pro Trolog in general. So
yeah, they do kind of fuck him up here in not a fun way. Like they paint his eye, which seems very cruel.
That's part of your brain.
Yeah, it seems like, just imagine someone putting paint in your eye, like on your eyeball. That would be horrifying. And then they lock him in a trunk, and you never see him again in this version of the movie.
I still want my picture of Santa Claus and Trolloc hanging out on my wall.
This is when the toy master, I love this. He's like, you guys have to go and get the flask of evil back. And they're like, well, why do we have to do it? Because you're young and I'm old and I basically don't feel like it.
What is it with movies and TV specials just deciding like a really good twist would be that Santa Claus is an asshole?
I mean,
well, this is a movie where you have to be a child in order to have any impact.
That's true.
So.
Yeah. And again, it is taking place inside her head. So, I think Lisa and Georgie go into the forest of night here for some reason. I'm not really sure what their plan is there. But they encounter some glowing-eyed troll monsters, and then also fall down a hole and end up in the prison.
Classic Googie.
They this is when Barnaby he's caught them all, and now he's going to turn them into trolls by giving them a pull off of his evil vape rig and making them unconquerable. So he just lets out a bunch of this evil vapor, and they start to all sort of lose their grip on reality and their humanity, until Lisa realizes that she's not infected because she's from Cincinnati and the evil cannot affect her.
Cincinnati is impervious to evil, and you carry it with you.
I mean, I'm so glad that that's where I'm going for Christmas this year.
She never refers to it as she's from like Earth or the real world. Or
No.
It's always specifically Cincinnati.
Well, maybe it's like in What We Do in the Shadows, where you have to have some of the dirt from your hometown with you at all times. So because she crashed into the tree, it's in her pockets. And so that's kept her safe this entire time.
Kids always have dirt under their nails.
That's right. And she starts getting everybody to sing along with the song. That helps them keep
Why
their
do they
humanity.
know it?
I don't know.
They're in her head.
That's true. It's
that's
all in
right.
her head. So you can just excuse everything as being in Lisa's head, except that it does actually also really happen.
Does it?
That's okay with me.
It does really happen because she gets that little doll at the end.
But she was still hallucinating when she got that little.
Yeah,
has
she's
a
still out of
terrible
it. She has a
concussion.
concussion. Yeah.
She's fucked up. Like she hit a tree. In a storm.
She's
going to
be
take her to the
seeing
doctor.
Yeah, she's gonna be seeing shit for many, many days ahead. And of course, everybody pretends to be trolls in order for Barnaby to let them out of their cell, and he of course loves it. He's so happy. And I said as it happened,
hard as a rock.
I said as it happened, I was like, they better just wait until they're out of the building before they reveal that they're not under control. And almost immediately, Lisa's like, "All right, guys, run."
I mean, if you're the brains of your operations is a 7-year-old, as someone who had a 7-year-old, I still have her. She's just twice as old now, probably twice as smart. Still, that's not good. That's not a good sea level for your team.
Yeah, Holly's also twice as dismissive of the movies of our generation.
She will shit down their throats.
And so they get out. Barnaby declares war, and he throws down the vial of evil and breaks it and covers his trolls in this vapor so they can not be defeated. But of course they are defeated pretty easily. And
then he goes on a rage-filled car ride with his friends.
They do they escape from the thing. And they all jump in these little cars and have a chase around, and it's fun.
Long.
It goes on a little too long because there's a couple moments where Barnaby just circles the same building like 3 or 4 times, and then of course they all get into an accident.
Hilarious. There's so many car accidents in this movie.
And the trolls are unleashed on Toyland here, and Barnaby tells them to hurt all the nice people. And
wait till the next election; they'll have the new leader will say the same thing.
Yeah, that's what it'll be. Yeah, the Proud Boys at every polling station hurt all the nice people. The toy master, of course, here sits on his hands and says, "I can't do anything because Lisa doesn't believe in the magic of toys."
What a shitty thing to say. I can't do anything because you don't care enough.
The toy master is the Democrats. So she must believe in the toys in order for the town to be saved. And she must... This is my favorite part. She must think with the mind of a child. She must be a simpleton.
Not
Just
all
like
children are stupid.
I mean, George is an adult and he's not very smart.
Yes, she must think like Georgie Porgy to save this town. She must have the belief of a child, and that's the only thing that can save Toyland. And she slowly starts to remember. She's like, I always wanted to be a kid. I am still a kid.
Back when I was 5, It's like 3-year-olds who like always make sure to say other kids who are like 2 and younger are babies.
Maybe that's why that trivia bit is here on IMDb, because very much like the character in the film, the real Drew Barrymore was becoming too adult too quickly and forgetting the joys of being a child.
She couldn't save us if we needed her to.
Yeah, she still is a kid. She remembers what it was like before she started smoking going to clubs.
What if this entire production was actually just a giant intervention for Drew Barrymore that got aired?
Yes.
So she realizes what she has to do, which is to wake up the toy soldiers. And she tells them to come to life and go kill the trolls. I mean, not in those words, but
they need some good guys with guns.
Escort them out to the forest of the night.
So the trolls.
That's how I want my obituary to say. Brian Skinner was escorted out to the fortress of night, surrounded by his loved ones.
The trolls start attacking everybody, of course, and destroying things, which is pretty fun. The toy soldiers appear and drive them towards the forest. They start shooting at them with guns and cannons, which is pretty startling. They send Zach and Mac into the forest as well, and Barnaby grabs Lisa and is about to turn her into Trolog, but Jack attacks him and punches him out and sends him into the forest with the trolls. And the toy master shows up and banishes him to the forest permanently. And this is when Lisa tells the trolls that Barnaby is responsible for making them evil. And so they consume him, it looks like.
Well, also, I'm now confused about the ownership of this town, because I thought that like the cookie factory is the central work location /
Yes.
everything that happens in this town. And that is owned by Jack's dead parents, Jack and Barnaby. So Barnaby's brother or sister or somebody.
Yes.
And so now Santa Claus counters that, but the toy master does not, maybe. So
yeah,
I'm not sure.
It's a little the government is a little confusing because like Justice Grimm is seemingly in charge of like law and order there, but then the toy master can come in and banish you to the forest forever.
And there's also obviously a bank that is charging Mother Hubbard an incredible amount of money.
She's the only person being charged anything.
But if cookies are the currency, then couldn't they just get Jack to float them alone?
If you create too much currency, you get inflation.
But people eat it. That's why you always have one in your hat.
That's just like I'm going to start walking around with a $1 bill in my hat that I can give to someone if necessary.
Are you going to eat it?
You're going to eat it? You find that $1 bill on the floor and you ate it?
Maybe.
It's evidence.
I saw that Barnaby dies in a I didn't think the cheetahs would eat my face moment.
Yeah. Don't blame me. I voted for Kodos. So Lisa saved Toyland, obviously, and they have the wedding finally, and it's great. Jack and Mary are married. Everybody's happy, and Mother Hubbard seems to maybe kind of hit off with Justice Grimm there. I think there's some implications there.
There's like 6 humans in this town. Wouldn't she like have known him for her entire life?
I mean, sometimes when the pickings are slim, you change your tune.
But also, I think that everyone in this town has probably had a few head injuries because they're in her head injured head.
That is true.
It's incepted all the way down.
Yes.
That's right. So they're all saying their goodbyes to Lisa. She's going to go back to her home planet of Cincinnati. And this is when we get the reveal that the toy master is in fact actually Santa Claus. And he's in a sleigh pulled by wooden reindeer. Not like the awesome robot reindeer in that weird 1960s Mexican Santa Claus movie where he has to fight the devil. Those are probably the best, most frightening reindeer that I've ever seen in a Santa film, because they just laugh maniacally, and it's pretty amazing. No laughing reindeer in this one, unfortunately. But they head off into space, and Lisa is transported back to Cincinnati, where she wakes up on her couch and everyone is there, much like Wizard of Oz. And I always found it interesting that she doesn't she tells them about her adventure, but I can't recall. Does she say does she do the Wizard of Oz thing? And you were there and you were there.
I think she did.
Does she? I can't remember.
She did, but I don't think she realized it was them while she was there, only when she wakes up.
Yeah.
She never mentions to them into town, oh, by the way, you're exactly like my sister and have her as her first name.
Yeah. And she also says that the toy master, and I'm going to go back to my character of the toy master that you meet at the truck stop. The toy master told her, "Stay young and be good."
The high school girls never grow older.
And she looks down and sees that one of the toy soldiers was left for her as a present, and it gives her a little salute. And that is the end of Babes in Toyland from 1986. I just have to say, before you tell me the plot of the original from 1906, is that what you said?
1903 version.
1903. Good Lord. Very early on in cinema. I just have to say, we've already talked about it, but yeah, I was pleasantly surprised by this one. I expected to not like it that much, but it's pretty charming. It's very silly and fun, and I'm glad that it wasn't 2 hours and 20 minutes. But yeah, it's pretty enjoyable.
It's something that they wouldn't make these days, which
No.
I always appreciate when we get to watch something that's oh yeah, that you could be really fucking earnest on TV back in the day.
Fucking earnest, Ernest
And weird.
Worrell?
And so weird. I could imagine this world as a little kid, expanding beyond, and it is very strange. So I like that.
And by the way, Josh,
I don't want this to get lost, but real quick, this is only for Skinner. So
what?
Hey, Vern, you fucking me?
Hey, so here's the thing: Barnaby, Barnaby's brother can be played by Ernest.
By Jim Varney.
They have very similar faces, Richard Mulligan and.
Oh man, we could have gotten a Jim Varney cameo as the Jack B. Nimble Sr.
Jack B. Nimble Jr. is a good name.
It is. All right, tell us the plot of the 1903 original Babes in Toyland.
So this 1903 original stage version of Babes in
Toyland. Oh, so
Toyland.
this was not on TV. This was the
No, this
okay.
was not on the 1903 television.
Not television. I meant in movies, but
no, this is
Thomas Edison made his Babes in Toyland.
His first film. Yes.
Yeah.
It was animated live
with lights.
Tremendous strain on their wrists, but they did it. Okay, so 1903 version. And once again, this has very little to do with the movie, except for some of the names are the same. Orphans Alan and Jane are wards of their wicked Uncle Barnaby, who wants to steal their inheritance. He ranges with two sailors, Gonzorgo and Rodrigo, for them to be shipwrecked and lost at sea, but they are rescued by gypsies and return to Contrary Mary's garden. Contrary Mary, the eldest daughter of Widow Piper, believing her beloved Alan is dead, has run away with her brother Tom rather than marry Barnaby. After the second attempt in their lives, Alan and Jane are abandoned in the forest of no return. In the spider's den, they are protected by the Moth Queen.
Ooh.
Old Mother Hubbard's shoe is threatened with foreclosure by Barnaby. That's there somewhere. Alan and Jane arrive in Toyland, where they find Contrary Mary and Tom and seek protection from the master toy maker, an evil genius who plots with Barnaby to create toys that kill and maim.
Whoa!
The demonically possessed dolls turn on the toy maker, killing him, and Barnaby uses the information to have Alan sentenced to death. Contrary Mary agrees to marry Barnaby in exchange for Alan's pardon, but after he marries her, Barnaby denounces Alan again. Barnaby dies after drinking a wine glass filled with poison meant for Alan. Tom reveals that the old laws of Toyland permitting marriage between a widow and a condemned man
wow.
on the condition that he supports her may save Alan from the gallows. Alan is now free to marry Contrary Mary. The end.
Wow.
I mean, there are elements in there.
I love that the toy maker is an evil genius who plots to create toys that maim and kill, and then they demonically possessed dolls immediately turn on him and kill him.
Wow, that sounds very wild.
No cookie factory at all.
Yeah, that sounds pretty wild. I looked it up, and it looks like even the 1961 Disney Babes in Toyland is also sounds pretty different. I think it's more similar to the one that you mentioned because it's about Mary Contrary, who is set to marry Tom Piper when he is kidnapped by Rodrigo and Gonzorgo, two goons working for the evil Barnaby who wants to marry Mary for her inheritance. So pretty similar. They do have some characters. Not everybody that you mentioned is there, but there are some characters pretty similar.
I do enjoy that they had to bring up an old law permitting marriage between a widow and a condemned man.
That was a very common thing back in the day. There's also a 1997 animated version, which also has a very different plot. Like the plot for this one is it's 2 days before Christmas, and the Toyland Toy Factory has just received its biggest order yet. But the evil Barnaby, who doesn't believe in toys, has plans to shut the factory down and spoil the holiday for everyone. Now it's up to Toyland's most recent arrivals, young Jack and his sister Jill, to help their newfound friends Tom Piper, Mary Lamb, Humpty Dumpty, and the rest of Toyland stop Barnaby's plot and save Christmas.
Okay.
So
that's similar.
It's an animated movie, and Humpty Dumpty is voiced by Charles Nelson Riley. And Christopher Plummer plays Barnaby, who in this movie goes by Barnaby Crooked Man. And guess
the original had very little to nothing to do with Christmas, and then it's just slowly become Christmassy.
In the animated one, there's a Goblin King, and playing Gonzargo, Jim Belushi.
So Trolloc is entirely unique to this
I think
version.
So. It must be.
And he's the best character.
Yeah, I guess whoever decided to add Trolloc to this TV movie version did the right thing. They were some smart folks. The animated version, by the way, was directed by Don Bluth's brother.
Of course. I'm sure it's animated just a little bit too much and looks kind of creepy.
Yeah, it's probably not good. It looks terrible. But I think that's probably going to do it for this episode on Babes in Toyland. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode, Lara. Thank you for recommending the movie. I wasn't sure when you brought it up because we're never sure about these films, but it was a lot of fun, and this was a great little conversation. So thank you very much.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Is there anything that you would like to plug before we wrap it up?
Yeah, I'm a screenwriter and a fiction editor. So if you need scripts or book editing, you can check out my website at laurafortier.com, or you can follow my personal Instagram, which is just a bunch of amateur aerial videos.
And Josh, I need you to make some Christmas cards for me that involve Trolloc.
Will do. I will start working on that immediately.
I know you're not busy.
That's right. Well, that's going to do it for this episode. Thanks so much for joining us. As always, we hope that you're having a nice holiday season so far. We'll be back next week with a brand new mini episode. But until then, I've been Josh.
I've been Skinner.
And I've been Laura.
And we predict you'll join us next time. If you like the show, subscribe, rate, and review us over at Apple Podcasts. We're on Twitter and Instagram at predictocast, and you can find our entire back catalog at predictocast.com. Our theme music is by Kyle Sledge. Find more of his work at soundcloud.com/geistmusic. As always, thanks for listening.